Hi, and welcome to my March wrap-up. I have all of the books that I read this month on my Storygraph on my phone, and I am going to be looking at it to refer to it occasionally, just because I cannot keep that much in my head. There we go. All right. I also only have 3 of the physical books still in my hands because I returned them to the library because they were library books. But 2 of them were from my most recent haul, the video before this one, and one of them I hadn't finished yet, so I kept it. But if I do not have the physical book to hold up, I will put the cover over here on this side where there is a very convenient lot of space. Also, the background of this video is a hot mess because the only place I could really find to put my camera that allowed me to also see myself a little bit was, I only have one decent mirror in my house and I don't have a flip out viewfinder. So the whole back of my room is just there, my whole closet, my bathroom, and my whole bed. But whatever, I don't care. This is a low effort channel. So we're gonna get into all of the books I read. I think I read 13 books this month, which is crazy. That's so many books. So we're gonna start out with The Left-Handed Booksellers of London, which I listened to on audiobook. It's by Garth Nix. I loved the audiobook. It was such a good audiobooking experience. I did rate it 4.75 stars on Storygraph. I really loved the characters. I loved their interactions. It's basically one of my favorite things in a story where someone who did not know there was a magical second world underneath the normal one is suddenly involved in it, and in a really big way. And on top of that, one of the main characters is extremely queer in both a gender and sexuality way, and that just made me really happy. The whole book just had a tone and exuberance to it that I really enjoyed, and the plot itself was interesting and engaging, and it moved at a really good speed. I didn't feel at any point it dragged or, it moved too fast. And the ending, chef's kiss, really good. So then the next thing I finished was Ghost Talkers by Mary Robinette Kowal, which I was expecting to really like. And on my Storygraph, I have it as a 4-star, but I think it's more a 3.75 star. I liked the romance. I liked the magic elements. I liked our main character. She was really interesting to follow. It's set during which World War? Oh God. I think World War One, but I'm not sure. It's set during one of the world wars, and there's a mystery to solve, and the mystery was I did not see the solution to the mystery coming, and the way that it was solved was very interesting. I hated the ending. The ending felt so rushed and weird, and it didn't feel like it fit with the rest of the book. So I liked most of it, but I just really did not like the ending. The next book that I read was If the Shoe Fits by Julie Murphy, which is a Cinderella retelling, and it's a reskinned The Bachelor. Where was I? I liked the main character. I think in in the first 10 pages or so, she says something about boundaries and assertiveness, and I love that. I love that self-awareness and that knowing yourself and your limits in a main character, because so few of them exhibit that in any way, shape, or form. I loved the meet cute. I loved the romance. I had a little bit of a difficulty getting my head around some elements of it because points. I'm autistic and I'm also polyamorous, and I don't understand jealousy. So many romance books have an element of jealousy, and sometimes I get it and sometimes I don't. And it really just boils down to whether or not I have experienced something similar or can imagine myself feeling that way in that situation. And because I am autistic, often I cannot. But I really enjoyed it. It was a really fun read. And additionally, the color design of the end papers, the cover, the dust jacket was all really, really fun. It was really bright and really well matched and really fun, which is such a tiny thing, but it's great. I also really loved how the main character's interest in fashion, and specifically shoes, was integrated into the whole story. It was a great read. I loved it. From that, we're gonna go straight into a book I hated, unfortunately, which is the Under One Roof novella by Ali Hazelwood, which is the first of 3 novellas that she's releasing as audiobooks first this spring. I believe all 3 are out now, and I am going to try, I think, the 3rd one, but I hated this one. Part of it is because I am really not meant to listen to romance in audio. It doesn't move fast enough for me. I can only speed up the audio so fast before I stop being able to understand it. And I don't like taking hours to get through a romance book. Like, it just doesn't move fast enough for me in audio form. And then I have to listen to sex scenes, and I can read sex scenes because I skim them. But I do not like listening to them. I have discovered that about myself. That's part of what really, really, ditched this book for me. I don't remember if I said, but I rated it 2.5 stars. And on top of that, the ending was really weird. Now, note that I listened to it on audio, so it's possible that I missed something. But they went from, in this really nebulous place to fucking. And they didn't really talk about it that I heard or can remember. And that stressed me out so much. Because what? I don't know. I hated it. It wasn't fun for me. The first 3 hours were okay, but I just wasn't enjoying it. There were a lot of things that didn't hit for me. There were a lot of things that didn't make sense, and I didn't enjoy it. Anyway, I don't want to spend more time on it. The next book I read was The Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon, and I rated that 3.75, which is low for what I expected from this book. But I'm going to look at my review to remember what... Okay. So my specific problems with this book is that it felt between 200 and 300 pages too long. The beginning of the book was really good. The ending of the book was solid. I really enjoyed it. The middle was a slog. I almost DNF'd this book, but I didn't because I was still interested in how the plot lines were going to wrap up. The one thing I did really love about this book is that the author and I seemed to have a similar opinion on which POV would be the most interesting to be reading right now. A lot of authors do a POV structure that's every other chapter, alternates, or something like that, and I hate it because, reader confession, often I will be really attached to a certain plotline and I will really need to know what happens, and so I will skip chapters until I feel satisfied on that plotline, and then I have to go back and read the other POV chapters, and I don't like doing that, and I never wanted to do that once in Priory of the Orange Tree. I never felt like, this POV again about it, which is impressive because I often feel that way. I also really didn't like some of the hard choices that the author made. I didn't agree with them. I can kind of see why they might be considered necessary, but I'm not sure I agree that they were necessary. So in general, I liked it, but I didn't love it, and I felt disappointed by it. And when I feel disappointed by a book, I rate it even lower because, I don't know, it's just a thing that I do. Next, we have The Ice Swan by, and I am not going to pronounce this well, by Janelle Sisiski, I think. I'm super not solid on this, but this, I rated it 4 stars. It was a really solid read. It was a very enjoyable romance novel. It is a recommendation from an article full of marriage of convenience stories, and I love marriage of convenience stories. So this was one of the first ones that I decided to pick up, and I absolutely, really solid story. It's World War II. I'm very sure that it's World War II, and we follow a English surgeon who also happens to be like a second son of nobility, and a Russian princess, but not like princess, Russian princess as in like the nobility title. I believe they're equivalent to an English duke or duchess, but don't quote me on that. But her and her mother and younger sister have fled Russia because of the Bolshevik Revolution, and we see them obviously like get married. My one quibble was that the actual marriage kind of took a long time to happen. It didn't happen until about halfway through the book. And it's not a big, like, I'm not really upset about it, but it did kind of feel like a very long lead up. I loved both of their emotional arcs. It's one of the few times that I really hate the third act miscommunication that's so common in romance stories, and this one didn't bother me, which is always high praise for me because I mostly just tolerate them in romance novels. I don't like them. And this one didn't bother me that much. It made sense. The actions they were taking and the reasons for them all made sense. So all in all, I definitely would recommend this book. And next I read Space Opera by Catherine M. Valente. Oh my god, I loved this book. I rated it 5 stars. And I have a hard time articulating, like, it was so well written. The whole book was woven together so well. Every new alien species that Valente introduces is interesting and weird and clever in some new way. And she lays out the whole history of this space Eurovision really well and really engagingly, and it all comes together. And on top of that, you have these two pop stars who've been randomly chosen, right, to sing for all of Earth. And I am enamored with Valente's writing. One of the things I said when I started reading it was that this book is full of genders, and this book is full of genders. My Discord status still is boyfrack, girl fraud, glam grind, because yeah, boyfrack, girl fraud, glam grind, besties. Like, I've already said it, but the writing is exquisite. The world building is on point. The characters are all really good. The plot and the pacing for a relatively short book. This says 352 pages, but it didn't feel almost 400 pages long. It's not a big book. Maybe my perception of book length is skewed. I don't know. For the size book that it was, the pacing felt incredibly solid. It did not feel rushed, and it did not feel slow. I mean, this book got me to retry reading The Girl Who Circumnavigated Fairyland and Ship of Her Own Making, because I loved it so much. And I remember kind of not liking The Girl Who Circumnavigated Fairyland. I don't remember why. But I am going to try it again because I loved space opera so much. Next, I read Robots vs. Fairies, which is a collection of short stories written, like, half of them are written about fairies and half of them are written about robots. And I still don't know which author I picked this up for. It has John Scalzi, it has Mary Robinette Kowal, it has Catherine M. Valente, it has Maria Davina Headley. It has so many good names in it. And almost every one of these stories was a hit. Not every single one, but almost every one. I think I definitely liked more of the fairy stories than the robot stories, but a few of the robot stories really hit. I'm trying to remember the name. I'm going to look at my review for this to remember the name of the robot story that I absolutely loved. So, Work, Shadow, Shadow Work by Madeline Ashby exploded my mind. It was so good. It explores themes of personhood and also incorporates witchcraft in some really interesting ways. A lot of the robot stories explore personhood, which is unsurprising because robots. And a lot of the various stories are just kind of all over the place. Anyway, this is a really solid short story collection. I rated it 4 stars. It has a kind of fun gimmick in that it's a collection of stories written if the robots win or if the fairies win. And since it's written like before this will happen, the editor's opening is really fun. And then each author has a little bit at the end where they declare that they're team robot or team fairy and why. And I think it was a really fun little gimmick. Next, I'm bracing myself. The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, which I rated 3.5 stars. And I might honestly... No, it deserves 3.5 stars. So I listened to this on audio, which I really loved the narrators for this. I believe there were 2, or it was one narrator doing a very impressive tone switch between the present day and the past narration. So the thing about The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo for me, and I'll warn when I'm getting into spoilers. I'll try to summarize without getting into spoilers, but I will end up spoiling just because I'm still so mad about some of the stuff that happened in this book. It was a 4-star or a 4.5-star read until about the last third. And the last third was it was like a 1.5-star read. I hated the last third of this book so much and so vehemently. The rest of the story was really good. The third act miscommunication in this book drove me insane. It sucked and I hated it. And then the author proceeded to make several decisions that I think were completely unnecessary, that did not add to the overarching character arc at all. And then the very ending plot twist did not hit for me. And once again, I am slowly realizing how much my being autistic influences my reading, because once again, part of the reason this ending did not hit for me is I genuinely cannot understand why the main character was experiencing the emotions she was experiencing. I'm gonna have to go really fast on this because my battery is dying. I don't think I ran out of room on my SD card, but my camera did stop recording. Basically, the last act sucked. And here I'm gonna get into spoilers. I'll put a timestamp on the screen for when spoilers are over. Basically, why did so many people have to die? I do not understand. I can't remember her love interest's name, but I don't understand the love interest's reaction to Evelyn, like doing simulated sex in a movie. I understand it a little bit, but the extremeness of the reaction just doesn't work for me. I don't like it. It didn't make sense. Too many people died. When I was discussing it with some friends, someone said that it kind of felt like Taylor Jenkins Reid killed people off so that she wouldn't have to wrap up storylines, and I'm not gonna lie, it kind of feels like that, yeah. Oh, and then her daughter's death? What the fuck was that, Taylor Jenkins Reid? That was completely unnecessary. The only death that I think really worked and hit was, I mean, her last husband was fine. I wasn't upset about that. And then her love interest, her female love interest, that was fine. Like, that, I think, made emotional sense. It was a good emotional beat. Other than that, I don't care. Anyway, Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo spoilers over. We're moving on. A Song of Wraiths and Ruin by Roseanne A. Brown. I rated it to 3.75 stars. I liked it. It was okay. It was a little bit hard for me to get through. And I don't know. It didn't really hold my interest the way I wanted it to. I did enjoy the relationship, the dynamic, that's the word I'm looking for, between the POV characters. I enjoyed the magic system. I enjoyed, the plot twist was good. I liked the plot twist. I really, I don't know. It didn't really hit for me. There isn't a particular reason. It just didn't hit for me. I am going to read the next book because I am curious to see where things go. The ending of the book was really whoa, okay. Where does it go from here? I'm very curious. So I will be reading the next book and we'll see if I like it better. Next, oh my gosh, next and almost last, I forgot I have A Song of Wraiths and Ruin next to me. It's been so many books that I forgot. Next we have the entire Folk of the Air trilogy, starting with The Cruel Prince. I'm holding it backwards. Whatever. Holy shit, I loved this trilogy. I'm kind of mad that I didn't read it sooner. I don't know why. I just kind of avoided it because hype reasons, I guess. I don't know. Let's see. I rated The Cruel Prince 4.75. I rated The Wicked King 5 stars. And I rated The Queen of Nothing 5 stars. These books were so good. The romance plot, oh my god. Jude's entire character arc throughout all 3 of these books, fantastic. Look, I have a huge soft spot for angry, bitter, jaded women who are really good with weapons. I love those emotional arcs. They're so good. And watching those women come into power and come into themselves is just really satisfying. It's so good. I loved this. I loved all of it. There wasn't much that I honestly didn't like. The only part I didn't like was what happens at the end of book 2. Spoilers for book 2 and 3 of Folk of the Air. Once again, I'll put a timestamp up. Jude being banished by the 3rd book, it was really clear that Cardan did it as he was flirting. He was really obviously flirting. He says to her when they finally resolve this that he thought she would think well of him because he was able to trick her because she does so much tricking. But it didn't get across. And he phrased it so well and everything, and I caught that. I'm not sure when, but there's something that he says where I was like, oh, light bulb. He wanted her to trick him back. He wanted her to find the loophole. He wanted her to just come back, and she didn't. It's a little sad, and it was a little bit of a frustrating plot point, but I was so enamored by the rest of it that I didn't really care. And spoilers for Folk of the Air books here. I'm just going to add a little extra note. One of the things I really loved about this is that it follows a mortal girl in Fairy, and I love books that explore mortals who really want to be fae, or fae who really want to be mortal. I wrote a whole tabletop RPG about it, and the way that Jude's fairy sister wants nothing more than to live in the mortal world and to live among humans, and the way that Jude and her twin sister want nothing more than to be fae and live in fairyland. I can't fully articulate my thoughts on this, but I wrote a whole game about this. I think it's fascinating. I love the way that it explores nature versus nurture and just how people adapt to their situations. It's fascinating. I love it. I'm obsessed with the romance. I love the characters. Everything about these books made me scream. I actually may at some point check out the audiobooks and reread them all, which is big because I do not reread or rewatch any media right now. And finally was Redemptor by Jordan Ifueko. I rated this for 4.25 stars. And I think it might just be a 4. I think it might be a flat 4. I was really disappointed by this book. Not miserably disappointed. I liked a lot of the plot beats. I liked the way that things wrapped up. I liked the resolution. I liked Tarisei's character development in this book. We didn't get to see anything of the council siblings, which I was really disappointed by because I felt like I couldn't really get to know them all in Ray Bear, and I know that's because it was a big ensemble cast, and I'm okay with that, but I was really hoping for more exploration of her, Dio Council siblings, and we don't really get that. And I was disappointed by that, and then it just felt really short and kind of rushed. And I think if it had, I don't know, it's difficult because I think if it had been too much longer, it would have felt too long and like she was dragging it out. But I don't know, it also didn't feel quite long enough. It felt a little bit like a highlight reel, and I would have preferred more fill-in between the beats. But in general, I didn't hate it. It just it let me down a little bit. And I'm okay with that. This is a book that was written in the middle of the pandemic. It's difficult to write in the global circumstances that we're in right now, and especially under a deadline. I'm not mad about it. I will definitely read the next Jordan Ifweko book that gets released. I think she's a really solid and interesting writer who has really good stories to tell. It wasn't as good as Ray Bear, which I believe I rated 5 stars, and it felt like a little bit of a letdown. But it had really good themes, and a lot of the emotional beats hit. So I'm not mad. I'm not mad. So that was every book I read in March. Thank you for watching. If you have read these books or are curious about any of these books, feel free to comment below. Or, most of the people watching this know me well and are my friends. So also feel free to contact me otherwise. But, do the like, comment, subscribe nonsense. And I will see you the next time I get a bunch of books from the library, or at the end of April, whichever one that is. Also, I am going to put my Storygraph link. I think I can link my profile or my username down below in case any of you have Storygraph and want to follow me on Storygraph. I have finally broken the curse that I've had on reading tracking apps forever, where if I mark a book as currently reading, I never finish it. I've finally broken that curse, so you can see what I'm currently reading, and you can see when I finish a book in my review and what I rate it, if that's something you're interested in. Again, thank you for watching, and I will see you all next time.